Being upset that your book was turned into a movie by Stanley Kubrick will never be the same. This is The Shining.
Welcome to a bonus episode of Seen and Heard. This is part of our bonus series where one of us picks a movie that we think should be included on the Sight and Sound list, and or a movie that was just foundational to who we are as film people, as filmmakers, as just human beings. This week I've chosen the movie. It may seem obvious, but Jackie hadn't seen it. It's Stanley Kubrick's The Shining from 1980.
The Shining was released in 1980 and directed by Stanley Kubrick, based on the novel by Stephen King. The screenplay was written by Kubrick and Diane Johnson. Former alcoholic and wannabe writer Jack Torrance accepts a job as the off-season caretaker of the Overlook Hotel. Together with his wife Wendy and son Danny, they agree to spend 7 months in the cold, isolated Colorado Alps. Danny, unbeknownst to his parents, possesses a supernatural telekinetic power known as the Shining. As isolation weighs in on the family, Jack starts exhibiting strange manic behavior. This culminates in a violent rampage where he tries to kill Wendy and Danny with an axe, much like another mad caretaker who murdered his family 10 years prior. Wendy and Danny get away, and Jack freezes to death while trying to navigate the hotel's hedge maze. In the last moments of the film, a photo from a hotel ball in 1921 reveals Jack, hinting that an evil reincarnation has occurred, and another repetition is inevitable. The film stars Jack Nicholson as Jack Torrance, Shelley Duvall as Wendy, Danny Lloyd as Danny Torrance, and Scatman Crothers as Dick Halloran, the hotel cook, who also has The Shining and who talks to Danny about The Shining.
Yes.
The film didn't win or was nominated for any Oscars, if I stand corrected. However, yes. it was nominated for 2 Razzies.
You've done your research.
I've done my research because I couldn't believe it.
Worst director.
For those of you who don't know what Razzies are, they are awards for horrible movies. And The Shining, now considered the greatest horror movie of all time, was nominated for 2 Razzies, worst director and worst actress for Shelley Duvall.
I know. It's something else. Again, I think, look, this series is all about us doing movies that we think should be included on the list, and if not quite on the list, just movies that one of us or both of us really intensely loves. And I think, look, so many people love The Shining. I'm already going on a tangent here. What the fuck was I saying?
This is your episode. You can go on a tangent.
So here's the thing, right? It's just funny. Again, like so many movies on the Sight and Sound list, ahead of its time, because people didn't fucking get it when it came out.
Yeah.
And one of the biggest complaints that people lobbed against this movie was that it was not scary, or that it was too long, or too slow, too boring.
They didn't really see any themes.
Yeah, which is funny because now this movie is ripe for interpretation. There's a documentary called Room 237, and it's honestly mostly like a crock of shit, but it's essentially 2 hours of just conspiracy theorists going on and on about all these details from The Shining, but this one thing on the wall, this one painting means that this is Kubrick telling us that he faked the moon landing, and they think this movie is just completely rich with hidden things, and I think there's a lot here in the text of the film that you can read into, but I think there's a point where you should stop.
I think so too.
So, okay. So for those who don't know, maybe this is your first episode. You're joining us because this is The Shining, and this is the big, everyone's seen The Shining except for Jackie. So the reason we're doing it this week is because Jackie hadn't seen it before. And Jackie has an aversion to horror movies. Mm-hmm. And so this was my attempt. I'm like, well, because you saw Alien a couple months ago and you liked Alien.
I like Alien.
Okay, cool. That's a good sign. And
yeah.
if you're going to see one other, it's in my mind, it was like, well, you got to see The Shining.
Yeah.
And I'm slowly on a journey to convert Jackie to see that the horror genre has much merit. So Jackie is coming in as someone who has made it this far in life without having seen The Shining.
Yeah.
Let's hear it. What did you think?
God.
What were your first thoughts? How did this movie come off to you?
First of all, not scared. I really wasn't. And I don't know if that's... I mean, I like Alien because, as you put it, it's a very classy movie. It's restrictive in the things it shows you, and it's perfect at like mise en scène, and it creates tension like that, and it's very like clean, and that's why I liked it. And I liked this for that reason as well. I love the symmetry, the shapes, the beautiful, the cinematography is gorgeous, undeniably gorgeous. It's so cool. Like, it really, really is cool. When it ended, obviously, a lot of questions, a lot of thinking. But I honestly really liked how no one dies except Mr. Halloran, sadly, and Jack. I like how they escape. I think it's pretty... Like, it's weird. It's like, I don't like I don't like happy endings in regular movies, but it seems in horror movies, the two I've seen, I like happy endings. What does that say about me?
Well, I think because you see these people go through torment. Honestly. They're tormented the whole movie, and you want some sort of respite for them at the end.
Yeah, but I don't know why. Like, in drama, like, I generally... I think that sad endings work better. Mm-hmm. But in horror movies, I think it's the opposite.
It makes sense.
Does it?
Yeah, I see it.
Yeah, so Jack Nicholson is just like, you can't look away. Like, his freaking eyebrow. The conversation they have in bed when he's talking about like, yeah, I think I really felt like I'd been here before. Like, deja vu, like that. Just that, it's funny to me. Like, he makes me laugh.
Yeah.
Even though it's not bad acting, it's not bad writing. It's just something about his face and his like wrinkle in his forehead and the way his eyebrows move. Just hilarious and captivating. Not hilarious in a bad way though. Like, how can I put that? And then like when he's at the bar and he's ordering drinks and he's imagining it all. And he's like... Yeah, and he's talking to the bartender. Like, everything he says is so funny. I don't know. Is that bad?
No, because he's just naturally funny, I think. And I think, too, because he's kind of checked out in this movie. Like, he's over Wendy, he's over Danny, and he has this, like, checked out, like, yeah, whatever you say, like, vibe about him. And I think that kind of lends itself to it a little bit, too.
I also really like how... he's not, and I know this is a big thing of like, this is a big part of Stephen King's problem with the movie, is that Jack is like not a nice person to start with, because I think in the book he's a sympathetic character.
Yeah, it's a more gradual in the book version of him descending into madness.
But I think that's wrong. I think that Kubrick had it right.
I think so too.
I really do, because it makes it so much more important. It just adds a whole other layer. Like, I don't know. Like, the whole thing could be seen as like kind of inevitable, but then also, yes, it is supernatural. It just makes it so much more interesting.
Agreed. It's so ambiguous. Stephen King hated it because it was not his book at all. And it changes some really key things. And
yeah, for example, like the hotel burns at the end of the book, but it freezes in this one. And he said that's like a key thing. Like, basically, because he saw the family as very sympathetic, he saw Jack as very sympathetic.
Because it's basically the Stephen King stand-in.
Right.
Alcoholic writer.
Right. And then Kubrick turned it into, oh no, like he freezes. It's not warm. It's cold. It's ice. It freezes. Like he's evil, like throughout. Like that evil's always there.
Yeah, it really blows my mind how much Stephen King hates this movie. It really blows my mind because he hated it so much that 17 years later, he commissioned a miniseries for TV in 1997 to basic, and it was called Stephen King's The Shining. And of course, it's terrible.
It actually got made?
Yeah, it got made. Yeah, it's just not good. It takes all the allure of the Kubrick movie and just completely throws it away. And it's just funny that Stephen King hates it so much, because one of the great, directors of the 20th century makes one of your books into a movie, and you're gonna like...
It does a fantastic job.
Yeah, it makes a classic out of it. And it's just like, it's truly mind-blowing how much Stephen King hates the movie. And this is coming from the guy who directed Maximum Overdrive. So Stephen King directed one movie in his life. It's called Maximum Overdrive. It's about all these machines that come to life and cars that come to life that just wreak havoc. It's a terrible movie.
Oh my gosh.
And this is the guy that trashed the movie version of The Shining. So yeah, I don't it's ridiculous. It's ridiculous.
I'm looking at Stephen King's The Shining right now. It looks hilarious.
Yeah. He uses a croquet mallet instead of an axe. Of course, they have in the book, there's, instead of a hedge maze, there's like topiary animals that come to life. Which sounds stupid. Well, let me ask you this question. As a movie that is sort of in the cultural stratosphere, that everyone knows this movie and it's referenced all the time. Like, when you sat down and watched this, did you feel like...
I knew it was going to happen?
Yeah, like you knew it was going to happen.
I definitely knew that he like has this old axe moment, of course. I know that I've seen him frozen at the end. Every time it's like remotely cold in LA, someone tweets that photo saying like, everyone in LA right now.
Yeah.
It, like, always. It happens all the time. And naturally, I've looked up, what movie is this? And it's The Shining. So I knew that. Like, I have that image. Obviously, here's Johnny. Just a gajillion times I've seen that. But the Shining itself, like Danny's power, that I didn't really know about.
Oh, so you kind of got to see this with, like, pretty fresh eyes. Like, not too influenced
Yeah, no, I didn't know about Tony.
Yeah. Okay.
I'm bending my finger right now. You guys can't see. Yeah, I didn't know about him. Obviously you see the twins a lot in our culture. You see those twins all the time.
They are on Cameo, just so you know.
They're on what?
Cameo. You know what
that is? No, are you serious?
Yeah, and they do it together. It's cheap. It's like $50. You can get a cameo from them.
Oh my God. Now I know what I'm getting you for your birthday.
Whew.
Oh my God, how awesome.
Yeah.
Did they go on to do anything else?
No, not really. I think they didn't really act after this. Just like Danny Lloyd, who plays Danny. Yeah. This was like his only thing. And he's either a teacher or a veterinarian now. I think he might be a teacher.
So great. I love that.
He just looks like some guy.
He's such a cute kid. He's
so cute.
So cute. That was one of my initial thoughts. This is a damn cute kid. Here, okay, when can I start asking you questions?
Well, let me just hear. So you said this didn't scare you.
Surprisingly, no. Maybe if I watched it at night, might have been a different story, but I don't think it would have, because I don't think it's scary in the way that I'm scared. I'm scared. Let me tell you, I'm scared of, like, I'm looking literally on your shelf right now of movies, The Conjuring. Like, that would scare the shit out of me. Paranormal Activity, that would scare me. But this is more of like a mystery. First of all, the scariest thing in this movie, if I'm being completely honest, is the music.
Yeah. The title cards.
The
Tuesday, Wednesday.
The music really made me like, whoa, like, yeah. That's the only time I jumped was the music.
Yeah.
And I think that's such an incredible tool to like master. I think that's so, so cool that scared me so much. But it's nothing I'm gonna have nightmares about.
Right. No. Interesting. Yeah, see, so I guess I should share some of my backstory with the movie.
Yes, and let me, before you do, because I know where this is going, if I saw this as a kid, 100% I'd be scared. Yes.
Yeah. Well, it's interesting. And sometimes it's hard to distance yourself from that. So I did see this as a kid. Growing up, I had a friend who was 5 years older than me. So he would always see stuff when he was just old enough to see it, and then he would like show it to me. His dad he was probably like, he just turned 13. I think in my memory, I saw this movie when I was 8 or 9. So my friend was 13 or 14. His dad showed him this movie because his dad was like, okay, you're the right age.
What? At 13?
Yeah, I guess so. I mean, look, yeah, it's just a movie. And
were my parents the only ones that were like really strict?
So he told me the story of the movie, and at the time I already loved Jack Nicholson from As Good as It Gets. As Good as It Gets had just come out.
Wait, at 8 years old, you saw As Good as It Gets?
I saw it in the theater.
What the heck is going on?
I was okay. Hold on. Yeah,
But, like, I wouldn't even be
9.
interested in seeing that movie at 8 years old.
I wasn't interested, but my mom took me, and then I really liked it.
Funny.
So I was actually, when I was like 9, I was a huge Jack Nicholson fan from that and from Batman.
Oh, okay. Batman's understandable.
And so my friend Tim told me about this movie, and I became obsessed. Like the plot just, there have been a couple movies in my life where I heard like the synopsis of the movie, and I just became completely obsessed. This even happened to me a couple years ago when I heard about the movie. They Shoot Horses, don't they? If you've seen that movie, it's definitely something else. But I like heard about it. I was like, I need to see this. So my friend tells me about it. I get obsessed. But of course, I'm like 9 and I can't see the movie. And I ask my parents, can I see The Shining? They're like, no, absolutely not. I go to the library just wanting to check out the book. And the librarian's like, no, you can't. You cannot check this book out. Like, it's not appropriate for you. So then I'm like in this weird limbo of like trying to catch pieces of this movie and other movies. Like, there's that movie from the 90s, Twister, with Bill Paxton. And there's a scene in the movie where the scene with the twins is playing at a drive-in movie theater, like as the Twister comes through or something. It's been so many years since I've seen it. But so I was like just getting off on getting these little snippets of the movie. Like, oh, that's like an actual clip from The Shining. Yeah. It became this like holy grail to me. Like, I need to see this movie. So after a couple months of that, of like wearing my dad down, of like, Dad, can I see The Shining? Can I see The Shining? I have a younger sister. And my mom and sister went out of town for the weekend. And so it's just me and my dad. And yeah, this is probably 1998, 97, 98, if I had to guess. And my dad went down to Hollywood Video and was like, Greg, we're going to rent The Shining. You're going to see The Shining. So my dad goes down to Hollywood Video, brings back the VHS. I called a couple of my friends that lived on the street and I was like, guys, we're doing it. We're watching The Shining tonight. So they come over. And we watched The Shining. And of course, you know, small TV, it's VHS, like the sound system, you know, using like the TV speakers. It was not this like overpowering experience, but I was so affected by the movie. And of course, there's this, you know, the scene with the naked woman in the tub. And then there's always that awkward thing of like watching a scene like that with your parents and them going like, I don't remember the scene. And it just like makes it more awkward that they said anything.
Yeah. And now put in the fact that you're 9 years old.
Yeah, I was 9 years old. Full frontal nudity.
Oh my God.
So it really scared the crap out of me, but but in such a good way, like a wholesome way. Like, I loved this movie so intensely. I loved the world of the Overlook Hotel. I loved the characters. I loved the vibe of the movie, and it was just an obsession for years. And yeah, it just kind of haunted me. For honestly, at that age, it really, truly scared the crap out of me. I guess I kind of hold on to some of that now because I do think it is a pretty scary movie, although it is in more of like an existential way. It's not in so much like a front and center way. Mm-hmm. Like, he's intimidating with the accident, him trying to kill his family, but there's so much that's implied here. And I think for me, that's the truly scary stuff. It's like, what is the nature of the Overlook Hotel? This sinister nature. But yeah, so I this movie, you know, as much as a movie can be a part of someone's DNA of like who they are as a person, like this is absolutely is part of my DNA, like a very crucial, essential movie for me. And like it is for so many people. And then I went through this period, you know, I grew up and started getting really into film and started learning about Kubrick and saw 2001 and Barry Lyndon and stuff. And then there was this period where I looked down on The Shining and I was like, you know what? Too over the top. The music, like there was a period in my life where I was like, you know what? He's trying too hard. Like that music is so overly too much. And there was a couple years where I was like, yeah, you know, The Shining's like, okay, like I still kind of love it, but also fuck The Shining. And then maybe 5 or 6 years ago, I came back around and I was like, who am I kidding? Like I saw, it's like, no, it's perfect. It's great. It's a masterpiece. I don't feel that way anymore. I love this movie so intensely, of a movie. And it's funny, I guess, to say this about The Shining, but it's like the kind of movie that you just want to crawl inside and live in that world.
That's really weird.
And because I love I'm such a location person in movies. Like I watch movies so often to go somewhere else and spend time in a place that I like. And there's nothing like the Overlook Hotel in movies. And I love that hotel so much.
So evil.
It is, but it's just mysterious, and it is. I don't know. I just love the world of The Shining so much.
Yeah.
So that's my story. That's my story with The Shining. I also remember going to a birthday party in a McDonald's right after I had seen it, and my mom found out I saw it. And I was like, "Mom, can I like tell all the kids I saw it?" And she's like, "No, you're not going to tell anyone you saw The Shining."
How funny.
Yeah. So yeah, I really, really love this movie. Jack Nicholson is still, this many years later after having seen it, still one of my all-time favorite actors. And this is such a key Jack Nicholson performance,
Yeah.
And I do think maybe it was Cuckoo's Nest that was kind of the start of this, but The Shining for sure solidified this persona of Jack, of like him with what you were talking about, with the eyebrows, with
crazy,
him going so over the top. I mean, him, Here's Johnny and stuff is as big as he ever got. And from here on out, he kind of just played that character for the rest of his career. And it's kind of sad because his late 60s and early to mid 70s work for me is like some of my favorite movies come from then, like Five Easy Pieces, The Last Detail, Easy Rider, Chinatown. They're just so The King of Marvin Gardens. I love that movie too. He plays these very like introspective, kind of like quieter characters, and I miss that. And
it's kind of lost.
I feel like after The Shining, it was like, okay, we know what we want from Jack Nicholson from now on, and he's gonna do that.
What about As Good as It Gets?
I mean, he's doing Jack in As Good as It Gets.
Yeah.
He's just did this.
I love him in terms of endearment.
Yeah. I guess he's still pretty big in that though.
He's so big.
Yeah, the scene where they're driving on the beach.
Oh my god, classic. Yeah, I mean, okay, but when you watch this movie, did you spend years trying to analyze it and like solve the puzzle?
No.
And you didn't.
You know why? I'm not that person.
You're not?
Person. No. See.
You're telling me as a teenage boy you didn't try to like analyze the shit out of this movie? No. Really?
I really didn't. In fact, it's funny because our podcast is about picking apart movies and analyzing them. That was never like a huge part of my film going experience. My thing was I liked the ambiguities of stuff. And I think one of the reasons I like this movie so much is that so much was unknowable to me and mysterious. And I almost like didn't want to suss out like, oh, but what does this mean? And what is that? And I feel like there is this culture of overanalyzing movies. I know people have definitely do it with like David Lynch's stuff, specifically Mulholland Drive, which we'll talk about because that is on the Sight and Sound list. But I remember when Mulholland Drive came out, people were just like picking it apart. Like, this means this means this, every little thing. And I feel like at a certain point, it's almost reductive to the movie of like, it's almost more powerful if there's more that's unknowable. Yeah. And I think a lot of the appeal of The Shining comes from the Overlook being unknowable.
You know what I love? One of my favorite lines. It's when the cook, Mr. Halloran, is talking to Danny about like Shining and explaining it to him. And he says like some places shine and some don't. I guess you could say that the Overlook Hotel has something about it that's like shining. And I think that that's like the best line because it's just like, it's everything like that. Like it's just an eerie, haunted place that has something to it. Like, okay, I take that back. First of all, it's not eerie.
Well, no.
I mean, not in like physicality.
See, yeah, I agree.
But it
is a
has
beautiful hotel.
That. It's just the way that he puts it. Like it has a shine to it. It's something about like it's something like shining. But I mean, I think that. I mean, I did try to like really think about it, and like I said, I did my research and stuff. I didn't get too deep into it, but I really do get the whole like. I mean, even when we watched it, and he said like, "Oh, this was built on an old burial ground."
Yeah.
And they had some trouble with Native Americans coming and when they were constructing the hotel. And already like when he said that, I was like, okay, like it's already built on kind of spirits and
mysticism.
You know, an evil kind of like stealing land and, and that was there instantly. Like I didn't have to like go home and like think about it and then like come to that realization. So I don't think I think that people do that. I think maybe they, what? No, I don't want. No, I'm not going to talk shit about anyone who tries to like enjoy a movie. Honestly, I'm not. I'm going to stop myself. But all I'm saying is that like I think it's in there. I don't think you need to pick it apart that much.
Yes,
and then like it is really about like violence repeating itself. It's there. It's in the movie.
Yeah.
Do you get what I'm trying to say?
Absolutely, because it's in the history of the hotel itself.
It's literally, they say it. Yeah.
Yeah. And then also the previous caretaker, Delbert Grady, who did the same thing to his family.
Literally.
And it is. And again, we'll talk about the ending, I guess, in a little bit.
When we were watching it, though, I didn't realize that Charles Grady is different from Delbert Grady.
Yeah.
I didn't realize that.
Yeah.
Because he says like Grady, like the old caretaker, and I just assumed it was the both. So already, that already gives it away kind of. And I guess I was kind of dumb for not realizing it. That it was two different Grady people. The butler was the original maybe, and then Delbert who did it in who's the one that killed who's the one from 1970? Charles or Delbert? I think it's Charles because Delbert sounds like a very
it
butler
does sound
name.
Yeah, I actually don't know which one.
So now I'm analyzing. But if you think about it, that kind of already gives it away. Like, okay, there was the butler who clearly looks like he's from the 20s saying his name is Grady and he did this. And then we're told that the murder before Jack gets there was done in 1970. So it's already happened twice, at least, I think.
Yeah.
But you know what I love, actually? And it was such a shock when Wendy starts to see things as well.
Yeah, towards the end
when she's running through, and I love the hall covered in spider webs, like all of a sudden
all the skeletons.
I think that's phenomenal. And then there's that guy who's been murdered, like
great party, isn't it? The glass full of like blood.
I love that moment. I think that's probably the scariest part for me, honestly.
Really?
Yeah, because it's like, okay, it's not just in Jack's head. It's not just in Danny's head. She is kind of the most sane person there, and she's seeing it too. I think that was really powerful.
So wait, that was scarier to you than the woman in the bathtub?
Yeah, the woman in the bathtub was just gross.
Oh my God.
She's rotting.
Yeah, it was that image of that woman in that bathtub. Especially the way she's kind of lunging after him, and she's like cackling.
Listen,
and he's backing away from her.
If I was a kid, yes, I would be
seared in my brain,
terrified.
Yeah.
I would be really scared.
Yeah, that was.
I'm sure that is horrifying.
Still haunts me.
I'm trying to think of like things in other movies that I saw as a kid that aren't that scary, but I was scared because
Return
I was
to
a
Oz?
kid. Yeah. Oh my God, so scary. I mean, yeah, like kids, speaking of Oz, I mean, kids used to be terrified of the Wicked Witch, like in the original Wizard of Oz. And she's not even that scary.
No, she's a breeze.
But I don't think that this woman is, I mean.
This woman, there's. I think I put my finger on what, I think this movie is existentially terrifying. That's the key to it. It's not. It's the implication of what happens and what could happen later.
That's probably going to happen again.
Yeah.
And I saw something else online. It's like, he's not dead. He's just frozen because he's going to come back.
I mean, I guess let's talk about that. I guess let's talk about do you believe, so the end of the movie, you go into this photo. There's a photo at the end, and it's 1921 July 4th ball. And you see Jack Torrance in the photo, front and center. To believe either... I guess the two main theories are he's either been reincarnated or the hotel has like swallowed him in. Yeah. Which one do you lean towards more?
You know what? Coming into it today, I would have said reincarnated. But now that I'm thinking about the two Grady characters, kind of want to say absorbed.
I like the absorbed theory better, honestly. It makes it more mysterious. Like what these people are just being reincarnated and coming back. They're just being drawn like a moth to a flame. That's cool too, I guess. But no,
because
sorry,
you know what? Because now we're really overanalyzing. Now he's been sucked in, right? So the next person who comes and does this to his family is gonna see Jack once he goes to that party. Like Jack is gonna be the butler, essentially.
Mm-hmm. Mm.
But you know what I just realized? The twins, the girls, they're dressed more for like a 20s era murder than a 70s.
Exactly. Yeah.
I just realized that right now.
Yeah. But they're also these like very proper British girls.
I know. Come and play with us. She's like, they're like so British.
You know, yeah, that adds something too.
The British butler.
Yeah.
You know, they never said that the guy in the 70s, the Grady from the 70s was like I mean, I guess it's not that important, but we don't know that he's British, but we know for sure the one from the 20s is British.
Yeah.
I don't know. You know, I like the absorbed theory a lot, but can we go back a little bit and like, let's go back and talk about like Jack a little bit more, because it's like, I read somewhere else that the whole thing is like an allegory for alcoholism. What do you think about that?
Sure. Yeah, I think there's a lot of that in there. I don't think the whole thing is necessarily an allegory for alcoholism, but that it's obviously one of the big themes of the movie, domestic abuse. Mm-hmm. You know, the person that's supposed to be protecting you, this family member who turns on you. I think all that is kind of there.
I'm not going to lie, related to Sunrise, Song of Two Humans.
Yeah, which we have an episode on. Yeah, I don't know. What do you think? I mean, there's.
I don't think that. I think it's very simplistic to say that.
I think it's absolutely. It's.
I think that the big theme here, and you could tie everything back to it, is just this like recurring violence. Like, are we as humans doomed to like hurt each other?
Yeah, I like that. Well, I think the appeal of this movie is that it is this kind of like Rorschach test of a movie, and like so many of Kubrick's films, like you look at 2001. Or Eyes Wide Shut or something, and they're like you could read into what you want to read into it, and most of it will kind of make sense. And
but I like how they get away. I like how Danny and Wendy get away, because it's kind of like breaking the cycle.
Yeah.
But then again, like we close in on the picture, which is I don't know. Can I ask you some questions?
Yeah. Let me ask you one question first. One question.
Yeah.
What did you think about the pace and sort of like the pace of the movie and sort of like the way that it unfolded, like the way that you get introduced to the world of the Overlook? And
great. Perfect. I really like, on a technical level, I have no issues. Actually, I don't really have any issues, to be quite honest. But I think I don't think I'll ever be able to like, I gave this movie 4 stars on Letterboxd.
That's something. I guess.
It is I only give that for like movies I really, really love.
Okay.
But I don't see myself sitting down to watch this movie unless I'm going to like show my sister or someone, you know?
Yeah.
I will never sit and watch this movie alone. Never.
Oh, really?
Never. It's no fun.
That's so much fun.
Really?
Yeah. Although, you know, one of the great joys of movie going is showing someone else a movie. So it is more fun to watch it with someone, but yeah.
All right. I have a question.
Let's hear it.
Who's Tony?
I think Tony is the materialization of
The Shining.
Of Danny's Shining.
My question. Yeah. Okay. Does the cook have a Tony?
I mean, again, I think my interpretation is that Danny hears these voices and he doesn't quite know where they're coming from. So he attributes them to this imaginary character, Tony, that lives in his mouth.
Yeah.
Whereas,
because Mr. Halloran is kind of surprised. He's like, who's Tony? Like,
yeah.
And I just thought, like, okay, if someone else who has The Shining is that surprised, it was a little thing. Okay. What happened in room 237?
So I read the book. The book is pretty different from the movie. We're not going to go into all that here because that could be its own episode. But in the book, you hear, a lot more stuff is fleshed out. A lot of Kubrick's movies were based on books, and Kubrick did this really interesting thing where he would kind of allude to things in the book, almost like prompting you to go read the book. So you're like, wait, what's that? And then you have to read the book to go find out. So in the book, it's this old kind of not movie star. It's just this like woman who is living at the Overlook and is on drugs and stuff and eventually dies in the bathtub. So that's,
I see.
In the book, you do get some more of that. And even the bear suit, the man in the bear suit, which again, as a child was terrifying because again, it's all about ambiguity. As a kid, I didn't know that he was like getting a blowjob from this guy in a bear suit because that's like the last thing on your mind. But you know that something very unsettling is happening. And so as a kid, I was like, what the fuck is this bear suit thing? And of course, in the book, it spells out like, you know, if I remember correctly, Stephen King is such a pervert. There's a line in the book where the guy in the bear suit is talking to Danny and he's like, I'm going to gobble your penis or something. Yeah. So good thing that wasn't in the movie. But
I love that Kubrick does that. Like, that's such a good use of source material.
I think so too.
It's a great use. It's portraying it, but it's like making it your own by not explaining it.
Yes.
Like,
yes. It's making it
really
ambiguous.
interesting. Yeah.
It's almost like an Easter egg, but it's such an elevated Easter egg because these days, you know, you look at most movies have Easter eggs in them because it's like based on some video game.
Oh, look, that's Black Widow's sister's aunt's mom, and she's over there, and that's
yeah. But this is like the classy version of that. Like, oh, I'm gonna allude to this thing in the book, and I'm gonna give it its own thing, but I'm not gonna tell you what it is. And I honestly do love that about Kubrick's movies. And if you look at again in a couple episodes, we're talking about 2001. That's full of them of like, if you really want to know what happened in 2001, you read the book and it's like spelled out, and Kubrick's movie just kind of like gives you these pieces to. Yeah. So the 237. I mean, look, I love Room 237.
What? You love Room 237?
Not just because of the woman in the bathtub. That's the most frightening thing I've ever seen in my life. But the fact that Room 237 is the stand-in for this completely unknowable space, this sinister, empty space that exists in people, in places. And I love that about Room 237. And I love that there's just this room in this hotel that's just like, that room is like the center of the hate of this hotel. And that's the center of this mystery too, you know, like.
But was that the first crime to happen there? Not crime, but
I don't think so. But yeah, so you do get a lot of that stuff in the book. So is Danny, because he's like concentrating really hard, right? And then like that's when the woman turns into an old woman. So like he's making his dad see those things. That's how I saw it. I mean, it seemed. Are you talking about the shot of Danny going like this?
Yeah.
I always took that as him just being like super traumatized about what just happened to him. I don't know that he's necessarily making Jack see that stuff because Jack sees it pretty early on. And again, he has that, you know, he does tell Wendy, like, I feel like I've been here before and stuff. So I think Jack picks up on all that stuff like pretty quickly. So
the bruises on Danny's neck really did come from that old woman?
Well, who's to say? I don't know. They could have come from Jack too. Again, there's so many ways to read into this movie. One is that, here's the problem with this theory though. I'll say the theory first, is that there's no supernatural element to this movie, and it's all a story of a, you know, alcoholic father that's spiraling out of control and wanting to hurt his family. Here's the problem with that. Wendy locks him in a storage closet.
And he gets out.
He gets out. It's locked with a pin in it.
Yeah. What about Mr. Halloran? If there was no supernatural thing, why would he sit down and tell Danny, like, oh, I have this power too?
Yeah, true. Yeah.
But yeah, no, definitely. Like,
The Shining is definitely real.
When he got out, that's when I really knew. Because you always want to think that, right? When you're watching a movie that, like, it seems like supernatural. It's like Scooby-Doo. It's classic Scooby-Doo ideology.
Exactly.
You want to be able to solve it.
Which is why I loved and hated Scooby-Doo as a kid, because I always wanted the ghosts to be real.
Yeah. You did?
Yeah.
But when he got out, I was like, well, there goes that theory.
Yeah. Yeah, exactly. I guess we should talk about some of the behind the scenes drama from the movie.
Let's do it. But before we do, can we, or maybe this is part of it, like, Shelley Duvall's not bad in this movie.
No, she's fucking great.
Where did that Razzie nomination come from? I really need to know. And maybe this is related to the behind the scenes
It's
stuff.
beyond me. It's beyond me. And I think
don't get it. She's so good.
any discussion of The Shining that omits Shelley Duvall and the fantastic work that she put into this is like such a huge disservice, because she's such a huge part of why this movie works so well. And I know that Stephen King and other people think that her character is terrible on screen. They think that she's helpless and just turns into this like shrieking mess, and that she's
not at all. I don't see that at all.
No, I don't see it at all. She's a fragile person, right? She's coming into this, but she's not this totally helpless person. And
first of all, she's the one doing all the work. She's doing the radiator work.
Yeah,
I just want to say.
Yeah, the boiler room.
Yeah, the boiler room. The job that he was hired to do.
Yeah.
She's making the meals. She's worried about her son, her kid, who is now talking in a creaky voice and not responding to her.
Yeah.
Not at all. She slashes his hand with the knife. Like
Jack's hand, yeah.
She doesn't die.
She does not die. Exactly. Exactly.
She literally like kind of saves the day, really. I think that's a ridiculous
I think so too.
Take on this movie.
I think so too.
And I also love her. Like I just love when she's talking to the police through the radio. Geez, really bad weather. Over. Like she's just like so sweet and so pure. Like I really love her. I really do.
Katie K12 calling Katie K1.
Yeah.
Can you read me? Yeah. Yeah. I mean, look, I love Shelley Duvall. I think for a while it was almost like popular to hate on her, and I think it was because of this movie.
But why?
I don't know.
Just because she screams a lot? Like, yeah, it's a horror movie.
It's a horror movie, and what she's going through is really traumatic. She is in the most traumatic position because Danny's a kid, right? And has her. She has no, like the one person she had, which is Jack, has lost it. So now she's not just trying to protect herself, she's trying to protect her son. So she's in the most like horrifying position of all. And on top of it, at the end, she is seeing all the spirits of the hotel.
I love that part.
Yeah. So, famously, Stanley Kubrick was not nice to Shelley Duvall. I mean, Kubrick has a reputation for kind of putting actors through the ringer and doing take upon take upon take, dozens, if not hundreds of takes for some very simple scenes. And I think, there is this great, I don't know if you've seen it actually. There's a documentary. It's on the disc for the movie, but I think it's also on YouTube, where Vivian Kubrick, Kubrick's daughter, is on set with a fucking like Super 8 camera or 16 millimeter camera and just gets you. Oh my God, you have to see it. You have to see it.
Wow.
It's literally Jack like reading his lines and like pumping himself up before like the accent through the door.
I've seen like clips and bits of that everywhere over Twitter and Instagram.
But yeah, in that you see Kubrick really just be a complete shithead to Shelley Duvall. And it sucks. And you can tell she's having a terrible time. And it sucks to see. And, we'll talk about this when we do Letterboxd, but I know this movie's kind of tainted by his treatment of her. And especially in the last couple years when she resurfaced on that super exploitative Dr. Phil interview where she was clearly not okay and it's just not in a great place in her life. And I think a lot of people attributed that to her experience making this movie. And that might be a little extreme. But she, needless to say, had a bad time on this movie. And Kubrick, again, I think kind of an instance of this old school director mentality of not completely trusting your actors to do their job and like feeling like you have to step in and make their lives hell so that they'll be in hell on camera. And I think it really undermines the actors.
Yeah.
It's sad.
It is so sad.
So obviously the look of this movie, like every Kubrick movie, is amazing. One of the first movies to use the Steadicam, and it's used so well here with those tracking shots following Danny on his three-wheel.
It's so good.
Through the hallways of the Overlook Hotel. But
it's so good.
So Stephen King stayed at a hotel in Colorado called the Stanley Hotel. And it was the inspiration for this because it was kind of spooky, and I don't know, he had the idea.
Yeah.
So when Kubrick made the movie, the hotel is this interesting amalgamation of different hotels. So the exterior of the hotel, which is what we see in the helicopter shots and like the shots when they're arriving and stuff, is the Timberline Lodge in Oregon. And I actually really want to go there. Just like I would literally drive up to Oregon just to stay at the hotel. But the interior is nothing like the interior from the movie, and there's no hedge maze. Mm-hmm. The actual interior of the hotel was shot at Elstree Studios in the UK, and it was modeled after the Ahwahnee Hotel in Yosemite, which is a little closer to us than Oregon. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. And literally, they basically copied the interiors of the Ahwahnee Hotel on Elstree Studios. So if you go up to the Ahwahnee Hotel in Yosemite and you walk into the lobby, it is basically the lobby from The Shining. Even though it wasn't technically shot there, it was just like they basically copied that. Mm-hmm, mm-hmm. What's really cool is that at Elstree Studios in London, where they shot, so the main set for the Overlook, like the main room that Jack's riding in, that big room that he's throwing the ball against the wall and stuff. So right after this movie, that soundstage became the soundstage for Steven Spielberg's movie Raiders of the Lost Ark, the Well of the Souls scene, which is the scene where Indy and Marion are dropped into this pit, this giant pit with all these snakes and the statue and everything. So that was the next movie to film there after this. And I love that. And I think Kubrick actually went over, like had the stage for a little too long, and like Spielberg had to move some things around so they could like shoot on the same stage. But
classic.
I love that. I just love watching both movies. Whenever I'm watching The Shining, I'm like, oh, Well of Souls. And then when I'm watching Raiders, I'm like, oh, the Overlook. It's just, it's so cool. Yeah.
So what's your favorite sight?
My favorite sight from the movie, again, because it sums up the existential terror that this movie instills in me, is the scene. So Jack has gone into the bathroom. He's kissing this woman. She turns all gross and rotting. She's like coming after him, like cackling, which is still, Jesus Christ. So my favorite shot is he leaves room 237. He even like kind of locks the door behind him. Mm-hmm. And there's the shot as he's backing away from 237 in the hallway, and he's kind of backlit, but just the way he's like slowly backing away, as like you still hear her cackling inside the room and the music is still like, you know, and that is my favorite shot of the movie, because it's just like he's just like slowly backing away from this room, like, oh, it's just, that's my favorite sight.
Yeah.
You know the one great. I'm talking about?
Yeah. God, really, I loved the way that this movie was shot a lot. And at first I was gonna say it's that like tracking shot through the hall, and it's really boring. Like when the manager is showing Wendy and Jack around the hotel, and it's that great like long tracking shot through that beautiful hall that he's eventually gonna work in. It was that, but then really I think that my real favorite sight is the great shot where Wendy has discovered the typewriter and she enters the frame kind of looking down. That's the best. Like, and just her face, and we don't know what is on the paper that's making her react like that. And it's just fantastic. It's so good.
Yeah.
It's really, really good.
It is.
What about your favorite sound?
This one, I feel like this is cheating, but it's Midnight, the Stars and You by Al Boley, which plays in both the ballroom scene when Jack comes in. You love
old songs. Like, you love any song from like the 20s up to, and when I say old, I mean old like the 20s up to like the 40s.
Oh, yeah.
Like you love all old music, but like you really love that kind of like ragtime, like
yeah,
you do.
I do. Well, because there's an eerie quality about it. It's romantic and it's eerie, and I love Midnight, the Stars and You in this movie because it's played in the scene where he enters the gold room, and there is a ball going on of people dressed in 20s attire, and it's also played at the end when the camera goes into the photo with him. It's just
It's really good.
It's like a really lovely song too.
It
Like
is.
it's still a love song, even though it's used in The Shining. Like I still listen to it. I'm like, oh, what a sweet song.
Yeah, that's weird.
So romantic.
No, it's a good song. My favorite sound is, I don't remember what scene exactly it is. It's one of the tricycle scenes, but it's when Danny's riding his tricycle and just the transition between going on hardwood and carpet. It's just so real. It brought back so many memories. Like it was just great. Fantastic.
I know you love the scene where Danny like jumpstarts his tricycle by pushing on the wheel.
I love Danny so much. Okay, wait. While we're talking about Danny, tell me about, is it called Dr. Sleep?
Oh yeah, sure. Let's do that real quick. So yeah, many years later, Dr. Sleep was made, so Stephen King wrote a sequel to The Shining himself called Dr. Sleep, which probably came out like 10 years ago. And they made a movie, and it's the guy Mike Flanagan who did Haunting of Hill House for Netflix and some other movies, and actually was not like a big fan of those. And so it came out in theaters, and I was like, I'm going to skip this one. Like, it looks like, honestly, a sequel to The Shining is like blasphemy, and like, no, I'm not going to see this. So I didn't see it. And then like, I don't know, months went by and I started getting curious. I'm like, no, I should see this. Like, I love The Shining so much. They made a sequel. And, anyway, so I actually really like it. I really like it. And Mike Flanagan did this really interesting thing of like, Stephen King's book, Dr. Sleep, is a sequel to Stephen King's book, The Shining. Mike Flanagan walked this line of like honoring Stephen King's sequel, but also bringing in Kubrick's film. And so it has elements of both. And I actually think it's really good and absolutely worth a watch. And I think as far as sequels go that are made like 40 years after the fact or something, especially to like classic, timeless movies, it's good. It's good. Like, is it The Shining? No. And I think that's the strength of the movie, is that it does something completely new. Basically, Ewan McGregor plays an adult Danny who's still traumatized by his time at the Overlook Hotel. And he's like on drugs and he's just not doing very well. And he still has the shine. And basically he runs across this group of like traveling vampires that suck the soul out of people that have like the shine. Like they get this like this smoke from them. And so it just has this, it's not really horror. It's more of like this kind of dark fantasy drama. And then it eventually has Danny going back to the Overlook Hotel to kind of like put stuff to rest. And I actually really like it. I think it's a good movie. And I think because it does something completely different from The Shining, it just works. It works. I really like it.
Interesting.
Yeah.
I'm very surprised that you like it.
I was surprised too.
What does Pauline say?
So Pauline Kael, this is the segment where we talk about Pauline Kael's take on the film. This is huge. She wrote like 7 pages on The Shining. So just a little snippet here.
Okay.
It is said that an audience will always give a movie the benefit of the doubt for the first half hour. At The Shining, I think we give it longer than that, from 45 minutes to an hour. For one thing, it has a wonderful opening sequence that promises the kind of movie we are hoping it will be. Ominous horn music with synthesized sounds of snake rattles and bird trills, which suggest cosmic terror, and helicopter views of a car seen from high above, like a caterpillar being observed by God, as Torrance drives up the mountain roads for his job interview at the Overlook. It took nerve, or maybe something more like hubris, for Kubrick to go against all convention and shoot most of this gothic in broad daylight. Probably he liked the idea of our waking into a nightmare instead of falling asleep into one. She says the Torrances don't really seem to interest Kubrick anyway, not as individuals. What's increasingly missing from Kubrick's work is the spontaneity, the instinct, the lightness that would make us respond intuitively. We're starved for pleasure at this movie. When we finally get a couple of exterior nighttime shots with theatrical lighting, we're pathetically grateful. As Wendy, trying to escape from Jack, opens a window and looks at the snowstorm outside, and then as she pushes Danny out and he slides down the snowbank, we experience, for a second or two, the spectral beauty we have been longing for. Earlier, in the film's most imaginative, chilling scene, When Wendy looked at the pile of manuscript that her husband had been working on, she found only one sentence: "All work and no play makes Jack a dull boy," typed over and over. Well, all work and no play makes Stanley a dull boy too. He was locked up with this project for more than 3 years, and if there ever was a movie that expressed cabin fever, this is it.
Did she like it?
No, she didn't really like it. She sees the appeal. It's so funny that she's hung up on the look of the movie. I think it has a slightly sterile look because everything, and it's kind of the Kubrick look, that everything is like evenly lit, and so much of this movie does take place during the day or when lights are all on.
Yeah.
That's part of the look, and I think daytime horror is such a thing. We see it now in Midsummer and stuff like that, but yeah, I don't know. That seems like a weird thing to kind of like rag on about this movie.
Yeah.
Should we do Letterboxd?
Yes.
Someone gave it half a star and said, "I would give this movie 5 stars for being a sheer masterpiece of psychological horror, but it ruined Shelley Duvall's life for no other reason than Kubrick being a torturous piece of trash and not respecting his actors to simply just do the job that they were hired to do and trust that they can do it without having to be tortured to get, in quotes, get the desired performance. So fuck Stanley Kubrick."
Understandable.
Understandable.
Wow. Let's keep that in. 2.5 stars. I'm going to be honest. I only gave this 4 stars last time because I knew if I didn't, half of my mutuals on here would be like, how dare you rate this horror masterpiece any less than 5 whole stars that you plucked from the sky yourself with an electronic star plucker that's 26,373,738 million miles long. Stanley Kubrick personally saved my dog's life 4 years ago and painted my spare room a lovely yellow when I was pregnant, so I didn't have to do it myself and I could relax in the bath with a glass of white wine. I'm all for you enjoying this to the very end of your heart's content, but for me, it just doesn't tick the boxes, so I'm going to be truthful and trust that you don't chase after me with an axe, please. Not going to lie, this is how I felt when we put it on. Like, I was so scared because Greg and I watched this together and I was so scared this is how Greg was going to react if I didn't like it.
So part of me is happy that you went into this and you were like relieved that it was not scary, but then part of me is
you
like,
wanted me
upset.
to be scared.
Like, I want you to really be traumatized by something.
No, I don't like being traumatized.
Here's the thing, Jackie. Here's the thing. You know, you're not so easily scared, I think. You know, I do think this is a scary movie, and I think I think Alien is pretty scary, and I think you watch those and you're like, yeah,
it's
fine.
The era. I don't think I'll be scared of anything that was made 70s, 60s, 70s, 80s. I don't think those will really scare me.
Not The Exorcist, huh?
Oh, The Exorcist, yeah. Oh, fuck that. No.
Oh, we're doing that for the podcast.
Oh, dream big? No, that's not happening.
Here's the thing. There's no way that you could be a film fan and not watch The Exorcist.
Fuck up. Get out of here. No.
You have to. Someday you have to. You absolutely have to. Like, I'm not going to allow that.
Next review, please.
Someone gave it half a star. This is my favorite one, actually. Half a star. This happened to my buddy Eric.
So good.
I love that.
4 stars. Marriage Story is a lot more intense than I remembered. That's the review. This person just gave it a heart and said, yes, I've got to that part of quarantine. Which is great. I was thinking that the whole time. You can't see this in a post-COVID world and not think of COVID.
I guess so. This is the first time I've ever thought about that. Yeah. Someone gave it half a star and said, "This was so trash and boring. I would rather talk to Joel than seeing this again. My boyfriend's taste is so bad. I hate this."
Who's Joel?
I'm assuming her boyfriend, or maybe an ex-boyfriend.
Half a star. I will genuinely never understand how on God's green earth this is rated as one of the best films of all time. A meandering mess which feels like it goes on for days, with a cast of subpar acting and not one singular likable character in the entire thing. Like, what? This thing is rated like it's live footage of the second coming of Christ and proof of life beyond death. Yet, It is an exercise in misery for all deciding to spare 16 hours to watch this dreadful mishmash, of typewriter typing, Wendy doing absolutely fuck all for the entire film, and that kid just constantly on his bike. Fucking walk. It's not that hard. Its half-a-star rating is only earned by the scene of the blood in the elevator because I feel that it represented my will to live leaking from my brain out of my nostrils as the film drew to a close.
Jesus Christ, it's exhausting.
Wow. Wow.
Just calm down, guys. Calm down.
What's wrong with people that get mad at stupid stuff like this?
They do.
It's just a way to like express that they didn't like it and they don't really know why they didn't like it.
Exactly.
That's yeah.
Oh, 1 star. Love this.
Okay.
It gave me nightmares for days and I will not forgive it for that.
Surprisingly, no nightmares for me.
Okay, 1 star. I don't care if it makes me a Philistine or whatever, but this is the first movie to ever make me actually angry with how slow and boring it is. And people say this is a classic.
What? I was never bored.
1.5 stars. You can't look at me. Oh, God. I'm so bad at impressions.
I'm hiding.
Look how they massacred my boy. The Shining by Stephen King. Should say more like Stephen King on The Shining.
That's so funny. That's really good.
Oh, okay. Ready for this? This is the last one I have.
Yeah.
2 stars. Cinematic equivalent of the worst guy you know, tying you up and forcing you to watch as he masturbates into a mirror without breaking his own eye contact once.
What? Okay, wait. I have one and then we're done. 0.5 star. Honest to God, if that fucker Stanley Kubrick was still alive, I'd find the tallest staircase I could and push the dickhead down them, making sure he hit his head on every single fucking step.
Jesus
I know.
Yeah, people are riled up.
I don't get it.
Yeah,
And I don't even
either.
like the genre. You know, honestly, this is like one of my favorite Kubrick movies. I'm not kidding.
Yeah. Oh, I like that.
Yeah. Like, I don't know.
Me too.
I hate to say this, and maybe this is the wrong word, but I am generally kind of lukewarm to him. I really am.
Don't hate to say that. You know what you're going to like. I swear to God, you're going to love it. You're going to love Barry Lyndon.
Yeah.
Oh,
Yeah. I can't wait.
that and this are my 2 favorites.
All right.
That was The Shining. This was we're going to do these bonus episodes once in a while where we bring in a movie that's not on the list that we think should be, or a movie that we really love. And so next time it's going to be Jackie's turn to pick one.
The Lizzie McGuire movie.
There you go. Let's do that. So
When you said this movie's part of my DNA, my mind immediately jumped to the Lizzie McGuire.
then maybe we should do it.
No. That and Princess Diaries. It's going to be hard for me to find a movie that Greg hasn't seen that I think should be on the list.
No.
In fact, I think it's going to be nearly impossible.
Well, that doesn't have to necessarily be the criteria, right?
Okay. Yeah.
Yeah, because then we're really limiting ourselves.
Princess Diaries it is.
Yeah, it's been a long time since I've seen that. I would be down to do something like that, or like Spice
Like
World
a
or
fun
something.
one.
Yeah,
We should.
I almost did. We're gonna do Spice World for the film club.
Oh.
Yeah.
I'll be there.
Anyway, yeah, this was fun, Jackie. You're taking your first steps into the horror genre, and it's very exciting.
I have a feeling it's going to be
Don't say it.
a very short
say it.
walk.
No, this is a lifelong quest journey for you. Like if the quest is getting to Mordor, you've just gotten out of Hobbiton. You're still in the Shire.
Am I in Bree, that town over?
You're not even quite at Bree yet.
Okay. All right. Bye, Greg.
Bye, Jackie. Seen and Heard is presented by the Arroyo Film Club. Produced by and starring Greg Kleinschmidt and Jacqueline Pistachian. Edited by Greg Kleinschmidt. Music by Andrew Cox. Special thanks to Kathryn Ferentchak.